Environmentalism is supposed to be about protecting nature, but a puzzle comes up when we consider what we really mean by the word nature. Sometimes, nature means what's out there, away from human communities. Nature is defined in opposition to society. We go there to get away from other people. And sometimes we associate nature with morality. It's right to be natural. All this suggests an ethic of non-interference for our relationship with nature. We should take nothing but pictures and leave nothing but footprints. But now, let's put those ideas together with another one, namely, that human beings are part of nature. Well, if human beings are natural, then shouldn't we say that their interactions with the environment, even when destructive, are natural too? So here's the puzzle. If it's right to do what's natural, but it's natural for people to transform nature, on what basis do we make moral judgments about what people do to the environment? Surely we have to do that. Obviously, many things people do to the environment are unacceptable. But precisely how should we articulate and justify the moral limits we think should apply to human action in the environment? Human beings are extremely good at transforming the environment. But there are plenty of other animals that do that too. Think of beaver dams, bird nests, termite mounds. All examples of creatures turning their surroundings into a place for themselves to live. Biologists have theorized that what they call ecological engineering does more than transform animals' outer environment. It also results in evolutionary changes in the animal's genes. This is the topic of what's called niche construction theory. Think about the offspring of ecological engineers. In addition to the genes they inherit from their parents, they also inherit a transformed environment constructed to suit those genes. Those offspring grow up in an environment that is favorable to them, and so are able to reproduce. And thus the genes for niche construction get passed on to ensuing generations. The story is similar with human beings, but there is a key additional factor: cognition. Homo sapiens have the ability to think about different ways of gaining resources from the environment rather than being restricted to the skill set built into their bodies. And human beings use language to share and build upon their ideas. As a result, human beings get the capacity for niche construction not only from their genes. In addition, they get it from their culture, which means it can be refined and spread widely, much faster than on an evolutionary timescale. Unlike most other creatures, human beings live in extremely varied environmental conditions across virtually the entire planet. Niche construction explains this amazing fact. Human beings don't have to live in one place or another because we are able to create the conditions we need to survive almost anywhere on Earth, and even beyond it. Environmental ethics has to do with the restraints on what we do to the environment. But people can't refrain from all interactions with the environment. It's in our nature to engage in niche construction, transforming the environment to make it easier for us to inhabit. An environmental ethic that ignored these facts would be absurd. So how can we think about restraints that make biological as well as ethical sense? I want to suggest that we think in terms of habitability. By habitability, I simply mean being fit for habitation. But what does that mean? Let's go back to the biological idea of the niche. Strictly, a niche is the set of resources an organism needs to lead the form of life characteristic of its species. I'd like to go beyond this strict sense to suggest that the niche provides not just what is needed to survive, but also what enables the organism to thrive. Habitability, for me, rests on this extended idea of the niche. I'll say a place is habitable for an organism when it affords what the organism needs to have a flourishing life. Can this idea be applied to human beings? After all, there seems to be lots of room for debate on what counts as a flourishing human life. But the question of the good life for human beings is getting rigorous study right now, for example, in discussions of international development policy. I am very interested in attempts to identify some cross-cultural fundamentals of what makes for a good human life. For example, Martha Nussbaum's capabilities approach. For I think they might help us evaluate environments people create for themselves. We will rate them higher the more habitable they are, in this sense of providing for flourishing. I think that the notion of habitability, as I've outlined it, can serve as the basis of an environmental ethic. To be sure, it's an anthropocentric ethic. It's organized around the ideal of human flourishing. But I think the ideal of developing our full humanity offers some possibility of restraining our more environmentally destructive impulses.